The city of Baltimore in the state of Maryland is a very important city in the United States. It's very populated, and one of the most important ports of the country is located in this city, next to the Patapsco River, a river that pretty much passes in the middle of the city. So a bridge like this is crucial for the city to work properly. And the Francis Scott Key Bridge does exactly that. A bridge that more than 31,000 people cross a day to get to work. And this includes commercial vehicles. Just yesterday, on the 26th of March, this ship named Dolly all of a sudden starts moving away from the Baltimore port and points itself directly to one of the important piles that's holding up the entire bridge. After the ship started moving on its own, the captain called Mayday, Mayday for about 2 minutes before the crash, but nothing was being done. The entire ship had truly lost power, so they didn't really have any control. And 2 minutes after the Mayday call, this happened to the Baltimore Bridge. After the initial impact, it only takes a few seconds for the entire bridge to collapse down into the river. Even though it's 1:30 at night, there are tens of different cars that are passing it. The Francis Scott Key Bridge is not a short bridge either. It's more than 1.5 miles long. And that's the reason experts believe if this impact would have happened during the day, thousands of cars would have been drowning in the river. And until now, only 7 people have been announced to be killed because of this. The big problem with the Patapsco River is that it's very deep and it's also as a current, so it does not stay put if you fall into it. It's interesting to know when this ship made contact with the bridge, there was 2 people on top of the area where the ship crashed, and they fell directly on top of the ship deck. One of them was heavily injured, but one of the people was fine. Basically, the first people that were called on the scene was the US Coast Guard, and they're looking over the water, underwater, pretty much anywhere where cars could have drowned. And that's why they have to hurry up, because this current is very strong, the water is extremely cold, and this river will end up into the Atlantic Ocean. So the more time you take, the less chance you have of finding people. Of course, there are people that believe that something was sabotaged inside the ship that made this accident happen, and it truly wasn't an accident and it was a form of attack. But neither the Coast Guard has approved that, neither the ship's owner. This ship had a Singapore flag, it had filled up its cargo, and it was heading towards Sri Lanka, and there was no reason for the attack. One of the biggest problems that occurred because of this is that more than 30,000 people are gonna have trouble going to work every single day now, and their job relied on this bridge. To pass the Patapsco River, you can only go over this bridge that has been collapsed or 2 other tunnels, but the tunnels are very small, so technically you have to go around the town and head to the other side, which will take hours because of the traffic. If the bridge isn't there, you can't use the tunnel either. The tunnel itself will take all day because of the traffic that's passing through it. And that's the main reason Joe Biden, president of the US, has announced that we will use federal funds to immediately rebuild the bridge because we cannot afford to take time or take too long on this. Since it's a national emergency, they can't rely on the insurance paperwork or the state to come up with the money. They have to do it immediately, and then they'll figure out the funds later. News has come out that after the ship captain made the Mayday call, the police closed down both sides of the bridge, and that caused many people to not enter the bridge and collapse into the river, which saved many lives. If you didn't know, the Baltimore port is the most important port of the US for importing and exporting vehicles, and everything that leaves or gets imported into the country goes through this. So this is gonna take a huge hit on the car market of the US, at least the East Coast market. And also, all the sugar that gets imported from all over the world to the US goes through this port. The newest reports has says that there is no hope in finding people alive in this river because the temperatures are about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and you cannot survive too long in this water. And of course, the current will take your body or cars or anything else you have. So now they're just looking for bodies technically. Some people underestimate the size of the ship. It's 300 meters or 985 foot long. And when it's completely full like here, it weighs more than 155,000 tons. And because of this weight and the speed it hit it, nothing could stop this bridge from falling. Some people made fun of the structure and they don't build them like they used to, and they pretty much made fun of the engineers that built this bridge. But they have to know that no bridge in the world can withstand a hit like this. Bridges aren't engineered to withstand hits from missiles like this, or of course ships that weigh 155,000 tons. They're made to shift weight, carry all that traffic, and pass through wind so it doesn't flop around. It might be hard to believe, but experts believe, especially economists, that the destruction of this bridge is gonna put a huge toll on the American economy. And one of the most important ports of the country has been paralyzed. And that's the main reason the White House has announced that they have to immediately rebuild this bridge, because they can't afford to waste time. Also, about 7 construction workers that were repairing the bridge were working at this hour, while 2 of them have only been found, but 5 are still missing. Something has come up that makes this whole situation more complicated. Because in the year 2016, about 8 years ago, the same ship, meaning the Dali, was in the port of Belgium called Antwerp. And just like yesterday, it lost control and made impact to a stone wall. While it didn't do any damage to the wall or the ship itself because it was small, but a lot of people said just this alone will cause a lot of trouble dealing with insurance. They'll say the whole ship was defective and they were not willing to pay. But the US government is gonna pay for the entire operation. Then they'll deal with the ship company and the insurance.